Did the 49ers get better this offseason? Real quick, let me just do a rundown of players they lost and gained who made an impact last year. Okay, so last year, these are people who just made an impact at some point. Not necessarily a tremendous one, but like we're on the field doing things. Jimmy Ward, Emmanuel Mosley for like 4 or 5 games. Azeez Al-Shaair, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mike McGlinchey, Robbie Gould. There were more, but I mean, those, I don't know, what is that, 8 guys were essentially main characters on this team at one point. They're gone. And guys the Niners added this year in free agency and the draft who definitely will do something on this team this year. Javon Hargrave, great signing. Isaiah Oliver, starting nickel. Jake Moody, kicker. There probably will be a couple more free rookies who assert themselves as well, but I just don't know who they are yet. So based off those names, did the Niners get better on paper this offseason?
I'd say they cancel out only because right tackle gets a little worse from Mike McGlinchey to Colton McKivitz. But it's also,
I totally agree.
It also boosts because Javon Hargrave massively boosts up that non-existent pass rush outside of Nick Bosa. So I think that cancels out. Everywhere else kind of filled. Like, and I like what you did there, boosting the numbers with they lost Jimmy Garoppolo, Emmanuel Mosley. Like, oh, come on, let's go, come on. But it's like I hear what you're saying on those, but it's like, where else were they going to upgrade other than in the draft and looking for those future key players behind them? Where else were they going to upgrade? They don't need to.
No, I'm not saying they messed up. I just think it's the reality of the situation that I'm with you. Like, that was a wash, what they did this offseason. They didn't take a step back. They did all that they could, but they didn't. I don't know that they had a step forward to take, and they didn't take it. Like, I don't know if the Eagles did either. The Eagles lost a bunch of guys. They lost Hargrave. That's a big one. And they replaced him with Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think their offseason was a bit of a wash too, but I think if the Niners are going to take a step forward this year, it's going to be a lot of the players they drafted last year. It's going to be Drake Jackson.
Yes.
Caleb. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That's who has to take the step forward. There has to be like 2 or 3 guys. So Drake Jackson is so important this year. And Colton McKivitz, those 2 dudes, Colton McKivitz, Drake Jackson. Like, no, you don't even have a competition, man. It's all you. You have the starting job locked up. Do something with it. If they do, then this team is better than last year.
I'd say Kalia Davis is kind of crucial too a little bit.
Sure.
Put him in because I think he was supposed to go higher if it wasn't for his injury, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what you mentioned about last year's picks having to be coming up this year, and I think that's a big reason why they didn't really look at any offensive linemen in the draft last year. It's like we took 2. We need those guys to flourish, and we have other. We got at some point we got to do our job and coach them up, which I kind of like. It's like, okay, you do your job and coach them up. It's just, what's your track record where we're coaching up some of these offensive linemen specifically? I think it's your worst turnout group out of all. No, it is. It's your worst turnout group that you've invested at, whether it's contractually or drafting or just random.
Well, tight end is down there too. Well, they got Kittle. So no, I mean, they've got no one good at this position. They've drafted no one good at this position. No one great. No Pro Bowlers. 0 Pro Bowlers in the offensive line have they drafted.
It's bad. Like, it's one thing. I get it. You got to keep finding investments. That's and like John Lynn said, we're not going to take an offensive lineman, just take one. I get it. Yeah, it's true because again, other than that end of the round 3, you had the choice of those 2 players, of DeJuan Jones, Nick Saldiveri. If it wasn't those 2, which again would have been stretched to see if they were starters, you didn't really have any options. They were kind of forced. And free agency again, they're a little screwed. So that's why I see it's like, what were they going to do at right tackle? So at least, they one of the ways I'm talking about, one of the ways they can mitigate it in offense. One of the ways they can do it is defense. Javon Hargrave, get to the passer, give us extra possessions, hold these guys as points. We need help. So I think like it literally feels like a wash. I think so far, if you're not getting worse in the off season, that's always a win, because that's always one thing. It's like if you're not getting worse, you're getting better or whatever. A lot of times people don't think it's right in the middle of being stalemate. I just think, hey, you didn't get worse. That's fine, because ultimately, what can McKivitz do, and who's going to be your quarterback, and what level is he going to be at?
I mean, look, it's fair if they're like, they could have taken Nick Saldiveri. That's the one. He has 33.25 inch arms. He's 6'6". He's 318. He runs a 5'2". I mean, honestly, if he were on the Niners right now, I think he'd be the right tackle. I mean, I think he's more gifted than Colton McKivitz. And so the Niners, they took Nick Zakelj in round 6 last year. Nick Zakelj is maybe comparable to Nick Saldiveri in terms of athleticism. I think Zakel's arms are even shorter. So, okay, man, you took Sakel in round 6 last year. Let's see it, baby. That's your spring. That's got to be your swing tackle because we've seen it with Jalen Moore, and he ain't him. He's not Himothy. It's got to be Zakel. Otherwise, it could have been Saldiveri, and you took a tight end instead.
I just got reminded of what I wrote in the article of why the 49ers didn't take a right tackle. And, Kyle brought about, I consider this to be Brendel to Mack, situation versus like McGlinchey to McKivitz. And I'm like, yeah, I see another comparison. I see this as like, in terms of like not taking a player versus going McKivitz. I see it as Colton McKivitz is Brock Purdy. We know what we have versus drafting a rookie right tackle as Trey Lance. Like we already have a little bit of a headway start. We don't want to start back at square one and try to reinvest and just figure it out because God forbid it doesn't work. It looks pointless and we don't have the time. We don't want to do it. It's like, again, back to the short-sightedness, drafting kicker, saying no to minimal starts. It's what these guys do. It's the same way why McKivitz, like you said, he's two starts is enough for me. It's like, really? I'm seeing fans say defending McKivitz like that's all we need. It's like, what?
Really? And to me, it's like, how do you sell the fans on we're just gonna start Mike McGlinchey's backup? Wait a second. Mike McGlinchey wasn't good. Now his backup is to start. So someone that's worse than Mike McGlinchey is now starting. Oh no, but the Niners want you to believe that McKivitz is secretly better than McGlinchey. Then why was McGlinchey playing last year? Either way, I don't get it. Either way, it's like, what is this in the best interest of the team? Was McGlinchey playing in the best interest of the team last year? Is McKivitz playing in the best interest of the team this year? I don't get it. It just feels like Kyle being like, man, I've been working around a bad right tackle for so long. I can keep doing it. I don't care. I can keep doing it. It's like, yeah, for a while. You can do it up to a point. I'm not saying McKivitz is bad, but he's not like a good one.
No, of course. Look, we're just being. This is a risk. This is very risky. This is risky. Yeah. We're playing craps on the table right now with a guy with very low starts and is not really shown. Sure, against the Rams, but you're facing against the same opponent twice. Every 49ers player looks good against the Rams. First of all, that's why they always beat them up in the regular season. Another thing is, I'd say where the 49ers just starting McGlinchey just to start him, I'd say yeah, because of his contract. Jimmy Ward admitted to that last in his Instagram live. Remember he's saying like, I told him put me on the freaking bench, and Kyle was like,
not gonna happen.
Do that, and then Jimmy was like, you know why? Because I make too much, so they need me on the field. They probably thought McKivitz was the same, if not better, and they're like, even if it's unless it was drastically better, they couldn't. They couldn't explain
justify
that. And like you always say, like you like to bring in Jed York. Imagine explaining that to Jed York. It's like, why are you doing with our first round pick who's paying all this money, just kicking, eating popcorn on the sideline, bro? What the hell are we doing?
What are we doing?
I can see that being a legitimate reason.
Yeah. Okay. I'm with you.
I'm still scared though. I'm just like,
here's the thing. Here's what I wanted to say. So he can point to Brendel all he wants, but you mentioned it. That there's a big difference between center and right tackle in general. In center, that guy's rarely one-on-one against anyone. You can help him. He's got a guard to his left, a guard to his right. You could put a back in the backfield. Like, there are things you can do. Right tackle, you can only help him for so long. At some point in this season, he's going to be one-on-one against someone who's way better than him. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen. And the question is he going to get beat so bad that someone's going to get hurt? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very, when he misses, when he loses, there's very serious consequences for a football team. That's the nature of offensive tackle. Is why it's an important position to find and to maybe keep. It's kind of like finding a quarterback, man. It's very important. They're hard to find. You got to develop them. You got to be patient. And then I was like, we don't have the time. We don't have the patience. We're just going to go with Colton McKivitz. Like, okay, good luck.
I thought about Brandon the other day about how you brought up about Tyler Kroft, and it's like, yo, look, you gotta give credit to the Eagles for knocking him out. Not saying that's what they wanted to do, but it's like, look, there's a reason why there's an offensive lineman. You put all this money behind these guys, and it's because we had to protect this guy. He's the most. He's technically supposed to be the most fragile guy on the team next to kicker and punter, which is why we have offensive linemen. It's why we invest this way, because getting hurt is a part of the game. We acknowledge it. Otherwise, why do we have offensive linemen for? Why do we have all these guys for?
Why are we wearing pads?
That's exactly that Tyler Kroft thing is such a risk. And it's like, all right, you viewed risk versus reward, and you thought that risk was enough to garner a 20-yard pass of Brandon Ayuk.
Right.
Dumb.
But you knew the risk was that if he misses, your quarterback gets hit. And if your quarterback gets hit, he's 6 feet, 210. And that guy's like 6'5", 240. I mean, you know what's going to happen.
This is why I'm blaming Kyle. I mean, you're blaming Kyle too on that. Too. It's like, dude, you're the one that called the play. You knew it. You know your playbook better than anyone. You don't give these guys the right to audible either in that situation most of the time. And if this happens with Colt McKivitz there, I don't want to hear like, oh, it's McKivit's fault. Purdy should have ducked earlier. It's like, no, who installed that guy as the starter? And I agree with you. I think they're going to skate by the regular season because, number one, the NFC sucks.
They'll run the ball. They'll run the ball. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah,
they'll get 10, 11 wins like that for sure. Unless we see some miraculous 0-5 start again for them.
Unless there's a bunch of injuries, the Niners are going to win 13, 14, 15 games.
Yeah,
bet that.
It's the playoffs. I think what you put it out is perfect. It's like it's the playoffs. I think the point to push back on what you're saying is I think what you're hoping is McKivitz by then all that game reps in, he becomes better as well, which is possible, But it's like, and maybe that's why we've seen after all of these years he looks a little better in his starts. But it's like it's a risk. They're willing to pay it. And I think the way how they see it is there's no one to draft. You say Saldiveri, I agree with you. And there was no one to go in free agency. We didn't have the cap space. Otherwise, we would have kept McGlinchey, right? So unless it was the draft or a trade, I don't see how who trades off into tackles like that.
I just can't believe they didn't bring in a swing tackle. Like maybe they love Zakelj, but when I asked John Lynch, is he a tackle? He was like,
right?
Yeah. So like maybe Kyle disagrees. I just don't get it. Maybe they love Jalen Moore all of a sudden. Because they said like, oh, look, we got Matt Pryor. He can start. But they also said they played him out of position last year in Indianapolis at left tackle. So he's not a swing tackle. He's a backup right tackle. Okay, so okay, fair enough. So if McKivitz goes down for a week, you got Matt Pryor in there. Good luck. And then if Trent Williams goes down for a week, what do? Do you slip McKivitz over to left tackle and play Matt Pryor? Or do you start Jalen Moore for a week? Or do you just go with Zakelj at left tackle? I guess. They
did that 2019, right? They put Brunskill to the left one time. When Joe Staley
went out back. Daniel Brunskill isn't walking through that door, Jose. He's not going to save you this year.
Where did he go? I forget where. The Giants? No, where did he go?
Tennessee. Rand Carthon. 2-year deal. Must have felt he was getting a raw deal. Talk about roster politics, right?
After being like a solid offensive line key player.
He got put in a rotation last year when he was the better player in the rotation. What they did, I understand it. Like, he's going to leave and Burford's your future, so why not? But Brunskill was better than Burford last year.
That was so funny. I've never seen rotate. You know what's funny? I think someone asked Kyle after the day 3 presser saying like, "Oh,
I did."
Oh, you asked him about defensive
linemen?
I did. Yeah. He's like, oh, because defensive linemen rotate. And I was like,
what about your right guard?
You rotated last year.
And I thought it was actually one of the better things that they did all year because Burford wasn't ready to play an entire year. Instead of just sitting him all year, play him a little bit, get his feet wet, then put him on the sideline and be like, okay, now watch a better player do it. Now watch a better player do it. Okay, now try again. Now try. I think that's great. You should see more. I love Chris Forrester. I think he's an outside the box thinker. And I've been thinking this, a lot of people credited Mike McDaniel for being the genius on this staff. Man, I think it's Forrester, dude. He came in 2019 and that's when the run game changed. Chris Forrester, I think, taught McDaniel a lot. Chris Forrester's like the old, salty, grizzly dude who just knows hella stuff. I bet he's the encyclopedic mind. I'm just saying. But now he has to coach offensive line. I think he has less time to dedicate to just game planning. He was the game planner for 2 years, 1920. I'm just rambling. Anyway, Chris Forrester. I like his answers at press conferences. You watch his press conferences?
Oh, he gives the most.
They're so good.
I feel bad that I didn't write enough about what he had to say, but it's like, dude, I'm reading like essays all over again back in college. I'm like, sheesh, I like it. Give us something because what your peers do not give us enough.
He seems like he would be, of all the coaches that I would want to have a beer with on that, on that coaching staff, him, Kyle would be fun. Kyle seems like the kind of guy who, like, even if he doesn't like you, if he had like a couple beers with you, he could have a good time with you. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right because when Kyle goes on the podium, it feels like kind of forced. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to talk. He's like, dude, I'm just like, I hate putting on this front for you guys. Can I just unwind and you guys not tell on me and we just bro down?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely get those vibes 1,000%.
Yeah. So Kyle, Forrester, Johnny Holland's very serious. Not serious. He's very grown up. I don't know if he would have a beer. Chris Kostrick would be hilarious. I don't know Steve Wilkes yet.
Just going
those three. The 2 line coaches. Greasy hates me. Greasy is. I don't know about Greasy, dude.
That's so funny. I never knew you thought he felt that way until like you showed me that clip of what he said. I was like, wait,
Brian, I'm sorry. I take it back, man. Brian Greasy. My bad. Sorry. You did a good job last year.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? It's funny that we're on this topic because I used to always tell people, like, back when I was still in the locker room in 2019, I used to tell people, like, Jimmy Garoppolo is the ultimate, like, go to a dive bar type of guy. Like, I could go to my local dive bar and be like, he's just there wearing his flannel with the hoodie under or something like that. One of those flannel hoodies, you know what I mean? He's just there, just kicking it. I just see him as like a dive bar guy. Like,
that's interesting. But that was 2019. To me now, I think of him as like rooftop bar San Diego or like somewhere really ritzy in like Chicago on the Chicago River.
Makes sense. 2019 was his first year back, starting again.
Yeah,
right? He's trying to take it easy. He's trying to be more.
He used to be a dive bar kind of guy, but now I feel like he's like, exclusive bar only type of place, very quiet, candle lit. He's so private. No one ever runs into. There was the one time when he went to Hooters last year, and the girl took a picture of him, and that went out. But other than that, no one ever runs into Jimmy Garoppolo and takes a picture.
Good.
He's good.
He's like the Zodiac,
as opposed to Trey, who gets caught all the time. Although it is to his credit, he hasn't gotten caught partying in like 6 months. 9 months. I'll give him 9 months.